All right, so are you ready to like really boost your English skills and sound more natural?
Yeah.
Okay, well, stick with us because today we're going to deep dive into the world of common English expressions.
Love it.
Yeah. I was listening to this podcast the other day and
Yeah.
they were talking about this British Council study,
Okay.
and it found that using these expressions can actually help you learn English way faster, like 20 to 30% faster.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But, we're not just going to like define a bunch of terms.
Yeah.
We really want to unpack why these expressions are so important and then give you some, practical tips on how to actually use them.
I think that's what's missing for a lot of learners. They might have the textbook knowledge,
Yeah.
but they're not quite sure how to make it sound, well, natural.
Totally. It's like you can have perfect grammar,
Right.
but if you're not using these everyday expressions,
Yeah.
you end up sounding like a robot. Or even worse, you completely miss the point of what someone's trying to say.
Exactly. It's about capturing that natural flow of conversation,
Mm-hmm.
the rhythm, the nuances, the cultural context that brings language to life. It's like you're adding those finishing touches to a painting.
Yeah, like you're bringing your own personality to the language.
Precisely. And the podcast I was telling you about, they started with this story about a student who totally misunderstood the phrase, "let's call it a day."
Oh, I remember that.
She thought they were scrapping the whole project.
Oh, no. But, it makes sense if you're thinking about it literally.
Right.
Yeah.
But it highlights the importance of understanding these expressions, not just for clear communication,
Yeah.
but to avoid those potential misunderstandings that can pop up when you take things too literally.
Right. Because call it a day actually means, like, to stop working on something for the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's about recognizing those subtle cues and understanding the intended meaning beyond the literal words.
Okay, so let's break down some of these common expressions, starting with idioms. Idioms are those phrases where the meaning isn't always clear from the individual words.
Yeah, they can be a bit tricky.
Like, piece of cake.
Ah, a classic.
We use it all the time to say that something is easy.
Yeah. Like if you aced that English test, you might say, that exam was a piece of cake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But why piece of cake? Why not piece of pie or,
A walk in the park.
Yeah, right.
It's interesting.
It must be something about how we see cake, like how it represents enjoyment and something easy to eat.
I think you're onto something there. It's not just about learning the phrase itself. It's about understanding the cultural associations behind it.
And that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Absolutely. That's where you really start to unlock the depth of the language.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so another idiom we hear all the time is break the ice.
Ah, yes. This one's all about starting a conversation,
Yeah, especially when people might not know each other very well.
like at a party or maybe on a first date.
Oh, yeah. You could tell a joke or ask an open-ended question.
Exactly. Anything to ease that initial tension.
And it's funny how this idiom uses the image of ice.
Right.
Because it really does feel like there's this barrier, this coldness that needs to be broken to connect with someone.
It's a brilliant metaphor for the social dynamics we often encounter.
It really is. Okay, and then we have spill the beans.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, this is all about revealing a secret, often by accident.
Right. Like imagine your friend's planning a surprise party
Yeah.
and you accidentally mention it to the guest of honor.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh no, I spilled the beans.
Exactly. But why beans? It's such a weird image.
I know, right?
Do you think there's like a historical reason for that?
Well, some language experts believe it might be connected to ancient voting practices where they used beans to cast votes.
Oh, interesting.
So spilling the beans might have been like a metaphor for revealing a secret vote.
That's fascinating. I love how these expressions have these hidden stories behind them.
Me too. It's like peeling back the layers of history and culture.
Yeah. So we've covered some idioms, but the podcast also talked about slang,
Oh, yeah.
which can be even trickier to get right.
It can be. Yeah, slang is kind of like the secret code of a certain group
Right.
or generation even.
Yeah.
And it changes all the time, so it can be hard to keep up,
Especially for people learning English.
Exactly. What's cool slang today might be totally outdated tomorrow.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes it's better to not use slang at all
Right.
than to use it in the wrong way.
Oh, absolutely. Remember that story from the podcast about the student using "what's up" with their teacher?
Oh, yeah.
Cringeworthy.
Totally. It's all about context.
Yes, context is key. What's okay with your friends might not be okay in a professional setting or with someone older.
Mhm.
You really have to read the room,
Yeah. Okay, so let's go over some common slang words.
Okay.
The podcast talked about hangout, which just means spending time with someone casually.
Like, hey, want to hang out at the beach this weekend?
Exactly. So simple, but it gets the point across.
Right. It has that relaxed, casual vibe.
Yeah, totally. And then there's bummer, which we use to show disappointment.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Like, my flight got canceled. Total bummer.
Yeah, right. It's interesting how slang can be more emotional than formal language.
It's true. Like, bummer really gets across that feeling of disappointment in a way that's relatable.
Yeah, like we've all been there.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, of course, there's cool. I feel like everyone knows this word.
It's a classic.
It's gone way beyond just slang.
Oh, yeah. It's become so mainstream.
It's interesting how that happens with some slang.
I know. It started as like a counterculture thing way back in the mid-20th century.
Wow, really?
Yeah. But now it's so common that it doesn't feel rebellious at all anymore.
But it still has that positive feeling to it, right? Like when you say, that's so cool.
Totally. It shows you like something.
Like the ultimate compliment.
Exactly. It works for almost anything.
Yeah, that new phone is cool, that movie was cool, that outfit is cool.
Right. You can use it for everything.
That's so cool. But, learning these words is one thing.
Yeah.
But using them naturally in a conversation is a whole other challenge.
Definitely. And that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Totally. So what did the podcast say about how to actually make these expressions a part of your everyday speech?
Well, they said the key is to immerse yourself in real English content,
Okay, like what?
like movies and TV shows,
Oh, yeah.
especially comedies.
Mm.
They're full of these kinds of expressions.
It's true. When I was learning Spanish, I watched so many telenovelas.
Oh, yeah.
They were super dramatic.
Oh, I bet.
But I learned so many everyday phrases and cultural stuff.
Exactly. It's such a fun way to learn.
Oh, yeah. And what about music?
Oh, music is amazing for language learning. Listen to the lyrics.
Mhm.
You'll find tons of slang and idioms there.
That's true. So you're basically saying surround yourself with English as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Make it a part of your life.
The podcast also said it's important to practice using these expressions in conversations, even if it feels awkward at first.
Totally. It's like learning a new dance move.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just watch someone do it and expect to be perfect right away.
No way.
You got to practice, make mistakes, get comfortable.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off being perfect.
Exactly. Just have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. They also talked about flashcards.
Oh, yeah. Those can be helpful.
Yeah. You can write the expression on one side
Mhm.
and then the meaning and some examples on the other.
That's a good way to memorize them.
I personally love those language learning apps.
Yeah, those are great.
They're so convenient and they use those spaced repetition things.
Oh, yeah. Those are so helpful.
So you remember stuff better.
It's all about finding what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is to practice regularly.
Yeah, consistency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more you hear these expressions and use them,
Yeah?
the more natural they'll become.
And that reminds me of that British Council study we talked about before.
Oh, yeah. The one about fluency.
Yeah. It showed that people who use more expressions become more fluent.
It's amazing. It shows that this approach really works.
I know it's not just about sounding more native. It's
No.
about really understanding the culture and how people communicate.
It's like you're not just speaking the language,
Yeah.
you're speaking the culture.
I love that.
And that's what makes you a truly fluent speaker.
It's so true. They talked about how people who only focus on grammar
Yeah.
end up sounding really formal and kind of stiff.
It's true. Grammar is important.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it's just the foundation
Yeah.
expressions are what give your language that color and flavor.
Yeah, it's like the difference between reading a recipe and actually tasting the food.
Exactly.
I've definitely met people with perfect grammar who still struggle to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
It's like they're missing that spark,
Mm-hmm.
that personality that comes through in idioms and slang.
Mm-hmm.
The podcast actually compared it to listening to two musicians play the same piece of music. One plays all the notes perfectly, but there's no emotion.
Yeah.
And then the other one, they might change the tempo a bit or add their own little touches,
Yeah.
but their performance is full of feeling.
Which one would you rather listen to?
Oh, definitely the second one.
Right. It's the same with language.
It's not just about getting the words right. It's
Yeah.
about putting your heart into it.
Exactly. And that's where expressions come in. They let you break free from those formal rules and connect with people on a more genuine level.
So the podcast ended by asking listeners to choose one expression from the episode and try to use it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's a great challenge.
It is. What about you? Which one are you going to try?
I think I'm going to try spill the beans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see myself using that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's just such a fun way to say you accidentally told a secret.
And it reminds me of something they said in the podcast about expressions and humor.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot of idioms and slang words have that playful, funny quality to them.
It's true. Like, piece of cake.
Yeah.
It's not just about saying something easy. It's like you're being lighthearted about it.
Right.
And spill the beans. It's like you're picturing someone being clumsy and dropping beans everywhere.
It's funny.
It is. It's like these expressions are inviting you to laugh together, you know?
Yeah.
Like you're connecting through humor.
And humor is such a great way to break the ice.
It really is. You know, it makes conversations so much more enjoyable.
Absolutely. So at the end of the podcast, they asked this question.
Oh, yeah.
They said, how do you think learning expressions can improve communication beyond just being fluent?
Wow. That's a great question.
It really gets to the heart of why these expressions are so important.
Yeah, it's not just about speaking perfectly. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level.
Yeah, like you're showing them that you understand their culture, their way of thinking, their humor.
It's like you're saying, I get you.
Right. And that builds trust and connection.
Yeah, so much more than just exchanging words.
It opens up possibilities for deeper conversations and stronger relationships.
You know, it's like you're not just speaking the language,
Right.
You're speaking the culture.
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. So to all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
we encourage you to dive into the world of English expressions. Don't be afraid to use them, even if you make mistakes at first.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes.
It's all part of the fun.
Exactly. Remember, the goal isn't to sound like a native speaker.
Right.
It's to connect with people, to share a laugh, to really understand each other.
Beautifully said.
So keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Until next time.